right, Mike, Patrick, let's take a pause. And before we move on, let's take a closer look at how AI ads work, particularly how AI political content spreads so fast here in the US and what the dangers are. Here's Rosalind Jordan.
A new era in U.S. political ads has dawned for better or worse, thanks to the use of AI. And in a critical midterm elections year, the U.S. president is very much aware.
Artificial intelligence, which is amazing what's going on with that. It's going to be the biggest thing ever. We have to be very careful.
It's the biggest thing ever, guys.
And could be bad.
Just as the 2010 Citizens United court ruling unleashed an infinite amount of spending on campaigns,
The numbers are a disaster! We don't have enough illegals!
2026 is rewriting every way campaign ads are created.
Free bus rides for illegals!
Whether it's prominent Democratic politicians saying unflattering things,
Hey, what's up, Gretch? Don't worry, we got Michigan covered.
or Donald Trump leading the charge against a Republican opponent, voters are bombarded with so-called deepfake ads, highly manipulated content designed to convince even the most skeptical audiences. And the public is growing resistant to AI's use. A recent poll found 42% of Democrats think AI is, quote, mostly bad. 27% of Republicans agree. The siren call of AI ads has already snared many political operatives. It's low cost, customizable, and quick to make. First, choose your subject. Figure out the reaction you want to trigger. Use apps to create your ad. Finally, flood social media. Of course, this isn't real, but AI technology is so good that it can fool just about anyone. And that's catnip.
What's funny is this isn't even made with AI.
Rosalind Jordan, Al Jazeera, Washington.
Well, clearly, Rosalind had an awful lot of fun making that. But in all seriousness, Mike, where are we in our ability to spot deep fakes? Because as we saw in that report, there are some videos that are obviously using AI, and you know it's artificially created. Others, though, potentially much more nefarious. How do we decode one from the other?
Yeah, so it's very, very difficult to, just simply take a video, put it into some program and determine for sure, is this real or is this fake? Many of the companies that are developing these image generators, video generators, including Google, are putting in watermarks. Oftentimes these are even invisible watermarks. So, if I use AI to, let's say, edit a video for a business, I don't need something that says, Sora popping around the screen. But if someone did want to check, they could take that and it would detect the watermark. And would say, because it sees the watermark, this is an AI generated video. So there is that capability, and companies are moving on that. But it's not a foolproof system to detect or that you can't overcome with using a different model.
Right, and Patrick, is the pace of technology like that to be able to flag when something is AI, is that moving at the same speed as the AI technology itself?
Both in terms of the audience response and in terms of the funding for detecting or preventing or pointing out to the user that something is fake versus real, all of those are very lagging. By the time a user absorbs a particular truth, trying to convince them otherwise is incredibly difficult. And it doesn't just apply to deep fakes, it applies to misinformation generally. The only real, the best protective against that is actually to tell people about how they're going to be targeted with this information before they are targeted. Statistically, that's like the best sort of shot that you have. But I think that like the real protection or the real kind of solution lies in one of those other statistics that just came up showing increased levels of trust around the issue of AI in general. See, the companies that are today, especially company leaders, that are very enthusiastic about a far less regulated environment, are now facing a public that is growing, especially in the United States, increasingly wary across political lines of everything that they're selling. And I think that backlash is kind of our best hope for changing behavior and creating an environment where there's more solutions that can be brought to bear.
Mike, it sounds like this could be a real danger to democratic trust across the board.
Absolutely. Yeah. No, there's something known as in our field as the liar's dividend, where essentially because there is this existing distrust, this existing knowledge that if I see a video of a candidate I like, that may not be a real video. It enables people who may lie, who may say something didn't happen, or may allege something happened that didn't. Because of that distrust, there is a greater incentive to be dishonest.
Right.
So
the liar's dividend. Is that
yes,
what you called it?
the liar's dividend. Yes.
I do wonder, and we were talking about this with the rest of the team earlier, if AI was around at the time of Richard Nixon, whether or not he would have got away with it, because it most certainly, Patrick and Mike, it makes our job as journalists very, very difficult indeed. If basically nothing can be true and everything can be possible, Patrick.
Yeah, I'm sort of terrified to think about what Richard Nixon might be able to do with artificial intelligence, as well as the White House plumbers. But I think it also might have made it more easy to detect Richard Nixon without, like, an elaborate and long investigation by the Washington Post. You can sort of deep throat things out much more quickly, theoretically.
Whoa, 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 whoa! Rewind. What'd you just say? Rewind.
Elaborate and long investigation by the Washington Post. You can sort of deep throat things out.
Whoa!
Like, elaborate and long investigation by the Washington Post. You can sort of deep throat things out much more quickly, theoretically. It does sort of accelerate everything, but I think their own. But they
Okay, that's crazy. A little slip up there on the live news.
About public institutions, about politics in general. The more people, like this is sort of a trademark of Kremlin disinformation efforts going back for a very long time. There's a small group of people you really want to motivate. Everyone else you want to convince that, hey, giving up, being indifferent, being cynical is the smart move. Every institution in your public has always been as corrupt as it's about to be. That's kind of a thing that you can accelerate with AI, because precisely as we just talked about, people are becoming exhausted, and that's a win too.
It's a hugely destabilizing prospect, isn't it? Look, before we move on, let's talk about the regulation surge, because lawmakers are really starting to care about this. Take a look at this data from the Association for Computing Machinery, because across the US, there's been a significant increase in AI bills debated in the past few years. In 2019, there were fewer than 50 AI-related bills at state level. After 2022, there was a real shift, with the number surging to more than 200. Despite the increased activity, few bills have actually become law, and many are still pending. Mike, so lawmakers clearly universally agree that something needs to be done about AI, but actually passing enforceable rules seems to be a completely different story altogether. Plus, I understand Congress has completely stalled on federal solutions like the Real Political Advertisements bill that would have forced campaigns to essentially put a disclaimer on their ads. Why is it so difficult to even get this basic level of transparency across the line?
I think the First Amendment creates a lot of challenges to trying to regulate this in a way that is actually fair and can be sustained over the long term. I mean, I think it's important to know that, artificial intelligence is not just something that's used by bad actors. Al Jazeera actually has a partnership with Google to help use Google and artificial intelligence to gather information more quickly. So, I think it's important, if someone is making an ad, they could use artificial intelligence to create something completely fake, or they could use it to simply touch something up. So when we have sometimes laws that are overly broad or overly strict, that may prohibit this kind of action, there becomes a free speech component to it. The court is very wary of imposing any of these kinds of limits on speech unless there's a really strong reason. The example I think pointed to where it's clearly would be inappropriate would be the Biden robocalls during the last presidential election, where someone had a deep fake of Joe Biden's voice calling voters from Vermont, I believe, telling them that there was some different polling information, essentially to dissuade voters. And that person was charged, fined $6 million, which is much more than it costs to do what he was doing. So I mean, if we can kind of legislate and work to kind of eliminate those really egregious cases, But for something that's more general, like just using artificial intelligence in an ad, I think it's easier to aim for something like disclosure than it is for something harsher, like some kind of a ban.
Patrick, do you want to come in on that? Why it's so hard to even pass basic transparency rules?
Well, a lot of the reasons that we mentioned, there was across Congress a big reaction against an executive order that would have basically eliminated the ability of states to pass this regulation vetoed. So now the state.
Oh, what's
involved, but there's other people involved, but they're only attacking Vance because they want Rubio in 28 because they think
what is this? Red Eagle politics.
They think he's. I don't really know what the deal is with that, but they definitely think he's just going to be more of like a pre-2016 reset opportunity. We'll go with that instead of taking somebody who would like probably build more on Trumpism or whatever. Because again, it's not like they're taking things he says and analyzing them in good faith.
I don't know, this guy actually seems like he might not be a Republican. I just saw Red Eagle politics and I was like, holy shit. Funny.
Let's begin in New York's 10th district, where Brad Lander was declared the
Damn, by a wide margin.
Dan Goldman just minutes after the polls closed.
Senior political reporter Henry Rossoff was at Brad Lander's headquarters.
I think honestly, like, not supporting Israel is just such an easy win. Such an easy win.
And boy, was it a blowout with a 30-point lead for Brad Goldman, and he just finished taking. Oh, he's still at the podium behind you.
Yeah, so forgive me for keeping my voice down, but he is still speaking. And to be clear, former comptroller, now Democratic nominee in New York 10th Congressional District, Brad Lander, throwing down the gauntlet, talking about how the United States must no longer hug Bibi Netanyahu and support Israel in what he is calling a genocide. He's calling Democrats to shut down the government if Republicans next session do not restore health care subsidies. And he's talking about drawing a very clear line, rejecting money from crypto and APAC and
oh, hell yeah, that's what I need to hear.
Really throwing the gauntlet down on policy right away. A very left-wing progressive policy that earned him the endorsement of Mayor Zohran Mamdani, who was here with him very briefly before presumably heading to one of the other candidates he's supporting. They walked in together to raucous cheers. Hundreds of people here at this brewery in Gowanus. Let's take a listen.
I gotta wash my face. Oh, wait.
And now Democratic nominee Lander had to say.
And I'm so proud to stand here to describe a friend of mine in the language I've used with hope, and now simply to say it as fact. Please join me in introducing your next Congress member, Brad Lander.
Woo!
Tonight, it belongs to those streets as well, to the people who organize there, to the people who never give up on their neighbors. It was my name on the ballot today, but tonight's victory belongs to all of you.
Oh, you can hear him in the background. Palestinian human rights.
Rah-rah at the beginning of this speech, but I can tell you he's going very hard right now talking about Palestinian rights. Mayor Mamdani, for the record, did not mention any of the other candidates he's endorsed specifically, kept the focus squarely on Brad Lander before taking off and leaving this venue and leaving Lander with his family and supporters to revel in this moment.
NBC News projects that Brad Lander has defeated Dan Goldman in that closely watched race. Let's bring in NBC News chief data analyst Steve Kornacki at the big board. Steve, what are the headlines that you're seeing so far tonight?
Jesus.
Yeah, we've already seen one.
I have a clean laundry pile.
Dan Goldman in New York's 10th Congressional District. And Gotti, we may well be seeing a second. Adriano Espiat, there was just another vote update while you were reading that introduction in the last 30 seconds, and it was a very good update for his challenger, Daria Liza Avila Chevalier. She's a candidate of the far left, endorsed by the Democratic Socialists of America and the mayor of New York City,
yes.
Mamdani, and she now leads Espiat. He is a 10-year incumbent. He is the chairman of the Congressional Hispanic Caucus. She now leads him by nearly 2,000 votes, by just over 3 points. Again, this district is based in northern Manhattan, Harlem, East Harlem.
Dude, it is a Mamdani slide out there, bro.
The bulk of the vote is in Manhattan. That's sort of Harlem and in northern Manhattan. And this is where Chevalier, you can see she's leading there by 8 points. We just keep getting updates here. They've been getting better and better for Chevalier as the night's been going along. Espiat is leading over here in the Bronx. It's just a much smaller part of the district. Much of the vote is already counted right there. Each update that we've gotten, especially in the last 20 minutes here, I think has been awfully encouraging if you're Chevalier. So we saw one incumbent go down in the 10th district in New York earlier this evening. A second one is in grave danger. And Gotti, I might add that over in Maryland right now, in the western part of Maryland, a third incumbent. We're still waiting. There's a lot more uncertainty in this one. But certainly April McLean Delaney, she's a freshman Democratic member of Congress. She's being challenged by David Trone. David Trone, a former member of Congress. He used to have this seat. He gave it up. He wants it back. He is challenging the woman who replaced him. He's poured $25 million of his own money into this campaign. And absolutely, you could say at this hour, he has a shot, at least based on how the numbers have looked. So to varying degrees here, there's the possibility of 3 incumbent members of Congress losing this evening in these states. Coming into tonight, this entire year, only 4 incumbent members of Congress had been defeated in primaries. And oh, by the way, not to complicate it too much, but the polls are going to be closing in Utah in a few minutes, and there might be a couple of incumbents in trouble there as well.
Interesting. Maryland and New York, they're traditionally solid blue states, right? What are the issues that have been propelling voters there, and how much overlap is it with the momentum that the DSA has seen?
I think that's really the headline here, certainly. What we're seeing in New York City tonight. And another way of looking at these results, too, is I say Chevalier, DSA aligned and endorsed by Mamdani. That is also the case in another district in New York City tonight, Claire Valdez. This is an open congressional seat, again, heavily Democratic area. But the question here was sort of taking the temperature inside the Democratic Party. Her opponent was the borough president in Brooklyn, sort of had traditional establishment Democratic credentials. He's been trounced tonight. Valdez, DSA aligned, endorsed by Mamdani, not even close right there. For that matter, again, Goldman, Lander was endorsed by Mamdani and ran very much to the left in this primary, particularly Lander he made Israel an issue. He adopted sort of a maximally, I'd say, left-wing position on Israel, went after Goldman that way, wins big. So we're getting a readout here, certainly, and we've seen this in some other primaries this year. We saw this in a primary in the suburbs of New Jersey. We saw this in Philadelphia.
Hell yeah.
We've seen this in some other places.
Fuck yes.
This sort of very, I'd say, left-wing energy in the Democratic primary. It's certainly coming to fruition in what we're seeing in New York City.
Dude, we gotta get if we don't have like a progressive anti-Israel candidate for president, I'm gonna fucking cry. If we get stuck with fucking...
Other trends that would lend voters to leaning more progressive?
Is AOC of age to run for president?
Then sort of arises how much of this, how broad is this within the Democratic Party? I think that's the conversation that's been taking place this year, and I think these results, especially if something like this holds, those conversations will only accelerate after this. Is this, we saw it in Philadelphia, as I say, we see it here in New York City. How much is it just a phenomenon of those places versus something with a little bit more, sort of breadth within the party? I think one thing we can say, though, is as we go through these primaries and more candidates like this win,
shit, she can do it. She's legal.
The National Democratic Party, their visibility only increases, and it certainly raises questions about how that's going to go over with a national audience as more and more folks who, again, the idea of somebody aligned with the Democratic Socialists of America, the idea of several candidates like that winning primaries, getting elected to Congress, is kind of unthinkable in the not too distant past. Yeah. It's a pretty big change.
And yet the true test comes during the general election. Steve Kornacki, thanks so much.
We thank you for watching, and remember, stay updated on breaking.
Sick. Dude, that is such a good feeling, dude. I don't even know how to explain it. Like, and I live in fucking California, and we don't get shit because we're just one big fucking retirement home and speculative real estate market. That's all we fucking are. Dude, this is fucking sick. Oh, I'm so hyped. I'm so hyped. Let's see if Claire Valdez has a speech going yet. Nothing so far. She not giving a speech yet? Come on, man. Here's the DNC statement. DNC congratulates Claire Valdez on winning the the Democratic primary for New York's 7th Congressional District, a seat currently held by retiring Representative Nydia Vasquez. Democratic voters throughout New York back candidates who are focused on lowering costs, protecting healthcare, investing in communities, and fighting for working families. Ken Martin, DNC chair, released this statement. Claire Valdez has devoted her career to serving New Yorkers and making life better for her neighbors. As a union organizer and New York State Assembly member, she focused on improving workers' rights, advocating for renters, and advanced economic fairness. In Congress, Claire will always put families first and fight to lower costs, protect health care, make housing more affordable, and build an economy that works for everyone. The DNC is ready to help organize and mobilize voters to elect her and ensure New York's 7th Congressional District has a leader they can count on to stand up for them every single day. Now, I haven't seen DNC's congratulation for, other things, but that was a pretty short one. I don't think the DNC is happy to be getting this fucked by Mamdani, the Mamdani wiener. Crazy stuff, man. Crazy stuff. What else do we have? Hold on, let's see this full Brad Lander speech.
Everything that we can save is worth saving. Expect more. All right. And so now I'm going to turn it over to somebody who needs no introduction. Thank you so much, Mayor.
Like how he just pops out from underneath, like what the fuck? Yeah, dude, that voice. I'd be going apeshit.
Can we hear it for Brad's incredible family? Yeah. 1 year ago, I had the pleasure of standing as your Democratic nominee and of standing next to Brad Lander as that was announced. I've known Brad for some time, first as a colleague, as a friend, and over the course of that race and beyond, as a partner in this work. And I knew then what we all know now, and what many of you all have known for years. Brad brings a kindness to this work. He brings a sincerity to this work. He brings a vision of politics that is more than what we've seen for so long. And when we think about what our country needs, as Meg said, we need an
I
understanding.
think that light in the background is fucking with the contrast.
We need a good neighbor.
Let's try that.
We need someone who will always have our back. And I'm so proud to stand here to describe a friend of mine in the language I've used with hope and now simply to say it as fact. Please join me in introducing your next Congress member, Brad Lander.
All right, give it up one more time for the mayor of New York City, Zohran Mamdani. It was an honor 1 year ago to work together to elect him the mayor of New York City.
That was a year ago? That election? Damn.
Looks like to fight for a New York City everyone can afford. For a place everyone is welcome. And for a city where we don't compromise on anyone's humanity. Thank you.
Thank you. God, he talks so funny. I love it.
What a glorious time to be a New Yorker. These past few weeks, there has been a powerful energy moving through our city, a generosity of spirit, a refusal to give up even against very long odds, and a feeling of joy out in the streets shared by every kind of New Yorker there is. Give it up for the New York Knicks, all right? And for the mayor who brought the first championship to New York City in 53 years. Our win tonight, it belongs to those streets as well, to the people who organize there, to the people who never give up on their neighbors. It was my name on the ballot today, but tonight's victory belongs to all of you. The people here, we've been organizing together for 30 years. We've stopped the evictions of seniors and families.
Oh,
We won the Prospect Park West bike lane. We brought participatory budgeting to New York City. We desegregated our middle schools. We rezoned Gowanus. We won justice for fast food workers and deliveristas and Uber drivers. And
Deliveristas. Ooh. I like that term.
ICE in our neighborhoods and in our immigration courts. I will be back at 26 Federal Plaza tomorrow morning. I wish I could thank every single one of you here by name. But I'm going to have to do a few stand-ins of gratitude. So thank you one more time to our mayor, Zohran Mamdani. I want to say thank you to our public advocate, Jumaane Williams. To Senators Elizabeth Warren and Bernie Sanders. And to a fantastic set of elected officials, including Assemblymember Bobby Carroll. A lot of others who are in the room who I am going to say thank you to a little later. I want to say thank you to the Working Families Party, that's been my political home for 25 years, and it will be in Congress. And this incredible network of organizations. I'm going to do it quickly, but Jews for Racial and Economic Justice, Indivisible, Brooklyn Resistors, Move On, Stonewall, Lambda, 504 Dems, unions including NISNA, CWA, 32BJ, Workers United, Local 100, a campaign team for the ages led by Luke Hayes. Thank you, Emmett, Katie, Emily, Lauren, Harry, Luke, Connor, Neil, Emma, Dana, Rhea, Cal, Grace, Penelope, Allison, and to the great teams from Fight, Deliver, Global Strategies, Melted Solids, and everybody else who worked so friggin' hard on this race. An extraordinary thank you to my just truly incredible family. To my mom and dad, Carol and David, from whom I learned most of what I know about care and about listening. To my incredible kids, Rosa and Marek, who really, you guys inspire me every single day. and hold me accountable pretty well too. And to the most extraordinary person in my life, Meg. I am so lucky to be married to you.
Yes, you are, she said. Or maybe it was someone else in there.
You see how she holds me accountable right up here in public. You better believe it looks like that in our house as well. It is a house full of love and an expectation that you live up to the responsibilities and values that go with it. So, thank you. I also want to say thank you to Dan Goldman I want to say thank you to Dan Goldman for a hard-fought campaign and for his service to this community and to our country. I intend, as I committed during the campaign, to keep the triage center that he has set up in his office at 290 Broadway that has gotten over 40 detained immigrants released. And I will work to build on the fierce questions that he asks Kristi Noem and works hard to hold everyone accountable. I will build on that spirit. And I want to specifically praise him for how he responded to some of the toxic rhetoric that he and his staff faced over the past couple of days with grace and with gratitude. That is something we need more of in our politics. And I want to say to those who cast their votes for Dan, though we have some differences, I believe strongly that we actually have so much more in common. I know that you want to rescue our country back from Trumpism and renew our democracy. And I know you want to find a better, more humane path for us on the world stage. I will always endeavor to listen to you thoughtfully and to represent you and everyone else in this incredible district with great care. I have a few things I want to say, and I don't get a platform that often quite like this. So I am going to ask, in the spirit of solidarity, for you to indulge me a little bit. I know not everyone in the back can really hear. Maybe we'll give you a printed copy of the remarks a little later. But I'm going to ask. I got a few things I want to say tonight, so I'm going to ask for your solidarity to help me do it. Last Thursday, I gave a name to that spirit that has been moving in New York City. I said it was solidarity. I said it was the force we need to vanquish our biggest foes. And I don't mean Wemby and the Spurs. Solidarity is the force that we need to vanquish Trump's fascism, to abolish ICE, and to stand up to the billionaires who are rigging our economy against us. This campaign here was born out of solidarity. Now, solidarity is not the same as unity. Unity means we already agree. Solidarity means we do the work to build bridges even across significant differences. That's what we did last year when we joined together to defeat Andrew Cuomo and elect Zohran Mamdani as the mayor of New York City. All right, I'm going to also add one thank you that I thought I had in a great list of unions before, but we could not have won this race without the United Auto Workers region. A fierce and fighting union who shows an awful lot of solidarity and was there last year when we defeated Andrew Cuomo and elected Zohran Mamdani as mayor. We proved then politics doesn't have to be a cage match. Politics can be a team sport in pursuit of the values we share. We ran this campaign also like a team sport because you need a team when you're up against bullies and billionaires. And that's what I intend to do in Congress. Our team of progressive
Congress
is growing tonight. It's been growing in recent months, beginning with that election of Ana Lilia Mejia in New Jersey and continuing to tonight. Congratulations to Claire Valdez on her victory.
Woo!
And I believe it will continue to grow in the months ahead. Now, when you're insurgents, You spend a lot of time criticizing. That's just the nature of a primary. But coming out of a primary, our job is to do two things, and they are slightly different from Meg's two things. Our job is to do two things: to take the lessons that the voters taught us, and also to build unity within the Democratic Party to win the majority back this fall. When I launched this race, I said it wasn't progressives versus moderates. I said it's fighters versus folders. So, as we head into November, I'm going to give you 4 lessons that I believe are worth fighting for. All right. First, we have to fight hard and visibly against a system the American people have already concluded is rigged. And the clearest evidence of that rigging is corporate money in our elections. Democratic voters with these votes tonight are sending a strong message. It is time for the Democratic Party to walk away from corporate PAC money, to walk away from PACs funded by Wall Street and crypto and AI and APAC. People can see through this. They've been seeing through it for a long time already. We can only stand up and fight the corruption of Trump and his cronies if we make the line just as sharp and clear as it actually is. Second, we have to focus relentlessly on delivering for working families on the things that matter most in their lives, on housing and healthcare and childcare and a job that pays enough to live a decent life in this expensive city. Heading into this fall, Democrats have to show people clearly what we're fighting for, not just what we're fighting against. That was such an important part of Zoran's campaign and has been an important part of his first 6 months in office. So here's a proposal for Democratic unity. One of the best things that Democrats did last year was to turn the government shutdown into a fight over healthcare subsidies. Let's do that again, but this time let's hold strong all the way to the end. Let's be clear together that Democrats will only vote for a budget that restores healthcare subsidies on the exchanges and to Medicare and to Medicaid, and let people know this is the party that fights for the things that matter for you. Third, we cannot compromise on anyone's humanity. This one should be straightforward, but alas, it sure doesn't feel that way right now. Democrats are painfully divided by our differences over the U.S. relationship to Israel and Palestine, and we have to face up to it squarely. Our party needs to admit that Joe Biden's Hug Bibi strategy was a catastrophic failure.
Woo!
I believe it made us complicit in genocide.
Yeah!
Bombs we paid for killed over 70,000 Palestinians, mostly women and children. Tanks we sent made over 1 million people homeless. Humanitarian aid is still not getting in. We cannot keep paying for Netanyahu's wars with our tax dollars. Democratic voters across the country are saying this loud and clear. What we need instead is a politics of shared safety. One that sees Palestinian kids in Gaza and the West Bank as created B'Tselem Elohim in the image of God just as much as Rosa and Marek. One that understands that Israelis will only be truly safe when Palestinians are free.
Woo! That's a tough one to catch people onto. That's sick. Good for him.
Safety must, of course, include Jews in the United States and in Israel as well. American Jews have been on the front lines of civil rights struggles for generations as New Yorkers, as Americans, as Democrats, as progressives, as socialists. Let's keep it that way. You can criticize Israel and not be anti-Semitic. You can be an anti-Zionist and not be anti-Semitic. Many Jews are, and many non-Jews also. Now, too often often, though, people have started using Zionist as a slur for Jews. You can just check my mentions if you don't believe me. And anti-Semitism, it rises with fascism and with war, and we're amidst both right now. Progressives need to be people who are standing against this, not looking away from it. There is so much trauma here, so much grief, so much fear, and we hold on to it so tightly, and nobody acts well from a place of fear. It does not bring out our best selves. But we have an opportunity in this moment, a responsibility to insist on everyone's humanity all the way down. Last week at a synagogue in Brooklyn, I met 3 Israelis who do something called protective presence in the West Bank. They put their bodies on the line between their Palestinian neighbors and settlers who are trying to drive them from their homes, and in some cases, kill them. Now, the Palestinians they work alongside, they couldn't come to Brooklyn because they can't get a visa. But you know what? They do this work together anyway because they know their fates are bound up together. In Congress, I will try to carry a fraction of the courage that those folks carry. I will be one of the Jewish members of Congress most willing to stand up loud for Palestinian human rights, freedom, and dignity. And I will stand firmly against bigotry aimed at Jews as well. That's not 2 different jobs, that's the same job. And of course, that's the job that Rabbi Hillel gave us 2,000 years ago. Im ein ani li mili, if I am not for myself, who will be for me? Uksha'ani la'atzmi ma'ani, but if I am for myself only, what am I? V'im lo achshav ematai, and if not now, when? Hillel put this another way, and that brings me to my 4th and final lesson. Bimakom she'en anashim lehishtareh lehiyot ish. In a place where no one is acting like a human being, try to be a human being. Because that is exactly the moment that we're living in right now. On one side, our empathy is being hacked by a fascism that needs someone to blame. Immigrants, trans kids, women, for problems it has no intention of solving. And on the other side, algorithmic social media and AI are coming for something quieter, but just as real, our attention, our judgment, our capacity to sit with each other's complexities instead of optimizing it all away. So here's the 4th idea I think Democrats should run with this fall. Not just a platform, but a spirit. Let's call it a new humanism. One built for this moment when the loudest forces in our politics and our technology both seem to have an interest in making us less human rather than more human. A new humanism doesn't ask what's efficient, it asks what's worthy of us. A new humanism says dignity isn't a value you balance against other values, it's the floor everything else stands on. It says joy is not a luxury for having after the fight is won. Joy is part of how we win it. And boy, you saw and you felt and you lived that out on the streets of this city over the last couple weeks. And don't let anyone tell you it doesn't matter. It matters. And that new humanism says purpose comes not from being right by yourself. It comes from being bound up with other people, all other people, including ones that an algorithm or an administration tells you you can ignore. Pope Leo, in his recent encyclical on AI, made a version of this same case. And you don't have to share his faith to recognize the instinct that there is something in us. Call it soul, call it dignity, call it whatever you want, that neither a fascist nor an AI can take away from us. the spirit that has been moving through New York City over the past few weeks. That is the spirit we've been fighting together for the past 30 years. That's the spirit we built this campaign on, and that is the spirit that I will carry into the United States Congress. Thank you all very much. You've been incredible. Let's have a party.
Let's have a party, he says. Let's have a party. Brad. That was a banger. That was a banger speech. That was a good one. Just the amount of time he took to talk about Palestine right there. You know, it wasn't like a glance over. It wasn't just like a brush over it. It was like he took a good chunk of time to talk about the Israeli genocide. Very, very, very awesome to see that. It was not some random, you know, just yeah, really sick, really good stuff.
Volunteering for AOC, I feel good because she advocates for all of us, especially people who has medical issues. It's June 23rd. Today is the day to come out and vote.
Please vote for AOC for re-election.
Yeah.
Thanks so much. You like one? Thanks. Yeah, please take a pin or sticker, anything you'd like. I started coming out as a volunteer for Team AOC when I was in high school. I've been motivated ever since to be a part of Team AOC, doing the work, talking.
And there's nothing better than AOC. I believe that AOC has the proper program to.
We are at PS 69.
Queens and all across. It's amazing. And such.
Let's see. There's no way that is actually Liver King in that photo. I mean, I'm sure it is, but holy fuck. It's crazy. I love watching secular talk.
Oh shit, y'all. It's happening. It's officially happening.
It's happening.
It is Zoran Mamdani's party now, son. We just have some
It is.
And it is a clean sweep.
It is a
The
clean
Democratic
sweep. It's
Socialist
insane.
America, every Zoran endorsed candidate just won. You got Brad Lander. You got Daria Liza beating Espaillat, who's been there since like fucking 1992 or some crazy ass thing. Claire Valdez as well won. And look, man, it's happening. It's happening. People were thinking for sure it'd be like 2 out of 3. Not sure on the Daria Liza race.
That's crazy.
But Daria Liza was able to pull it off. And now, watch everybody in the party have to kiss Zoran's ass.
That's what I want to see. I want to see some ass kissing. I want to see that ass, dude. Holy shit. Oh my god. I'm so glad. I don't like. You would think Claire Vasquez would have given a victory speech by now, right? But I mean, it was so heavily in her favor. Let's see. Something else we can watch. The age of bullshit jobs.
In the United States, that is a myth. We produce more stuff today than we ever have. We do it with a lot less people, not because of China, but because of automation, and that is a trend that's not going away. So we can fetishize industrial jobs all we want. They're not coming back. They're never coming back. The robots are going to take over.
There's a generalized disrespect for skill, for the craft skill of either teaching, thinking, or even being a high-level craftsman. And this has happened.
So Catherine Liu, I have like a mixed relationship with her, but she's got some good taste.
There's a crisis in employment. There's an economic and political crisis around universities, and they're less and less shielded from them. I'll give you an example of something that's happening in California where, you know, strangely enough, we agree about a lot of things, but there is an enormous need for electrical workers, because as you know, our electrical grid is in trouble, and there's a lot of wilderness in California. And I was talking to a member of the Electrical Workers Union, and he says there are jobs postings that are unfilled. They pay $150,000 once you finish your apprenticeship, and young people are not choosing these jobs. You can go in with a high school degree. What has happened in general, and this is, I think, about the marketization of everything, is there's a generalized disrespect for skill, for the craft skill of either teaching, thinking,
I agree with
or
that.
even being
I agree
a
with that.
high-level
It's starting to, you know,
This has happened because of
you
the
call it
forces
cope or
of
whatever. It
deindustrialization.
has the same effect. Call it cope or whatever. But from what I can tell, I mean, a lot of my friends are tradesmen, and from what I can tell, it's becoming more appreciated by virtue of the fact that it is a life path that is financially stable. It avoids all the debt. You're you're given like a it's sort of just like the most stable pick there is right now. Like there's not much else you could do that would be much better than being a tradesperson at this time. You know, it's really hard to think of a better line of work that's more of a guarantee than you get from working in trades, you know? So I think it's definitely like improving in its like popularity, but I think she's right for the most part that for decades and decades and decades we've considered trades work to be like unskilled labor, you know? And I think there is still like an underlying sentiment of that, but as people start to transition more into these industries because a college degree means nothing nowadays, we'll probably start seeing that lift off a little bit.
Anyway, that we used to be a country that prided ourselves on making things. We are now a country that prides ourselves on manipulating ourselves and manipulating other people and manipulating financial markets. We've moved all the industrial and manufacturing jobs to China, and for an ambitious 18-year-old with parents, they're not going to be like, I'm going to go become an electrical worker, even though there's a need for it, it's well paid. And I think it's partially because we've devalued, because we've seen ourselves as customers, we've devalued the long periods of apprenticeship and the respect for skills. So in graduate seminars now, people don't even have the skills to argue with each other. There have been cases where my students who are leftists get yelled at by their colleagues, just screamed at by their peers. So I think that this kind of bullying, it encourages a kind of intellectual conformity, and I think the three of us would agree about that actually is directly working against the kinds of curious, skeptical minds that we would like to cultivate. And I feel like a craftsperson who really knows how to work with his or her hands, who sees their processes of work, valued in culture, will respect learning more. But if you live in a cubicle and you're just like manipulating yourself and your ideas and trying to sell all the time, and you're oppressed by your boss, you're going to look for shortcuts to success. And shortcuts to success are partially why we are in this crisis today, because the pressures of competition produced by the market produce an incredibly anxious, superficial, highly individualized person who's not capable of being disturbed by ideas without having like a total freak out meltdown.
You want to jump into this one?
Yes.
Okay, jump in.
Well, I'm just gonna blot out economics, so I have to. There's no deindustrialization in the United States. That is a myth.
Oh my God.
We produce more stuff today than
What
we
an
have
animal.
in terms of actual,
Just walk in.
actual value produced.
What you see isn't real.
Not because of China, but because of automation.
What a heavy testicle move, man. Just walk in and be like, yeah, you're wrong. Everybody's wrong. I mean, like, everybody's wrong. Like, Democrats, Republicans, everybody's wrong. Like, across the political board, leftists, everybody in mainstream and not mainstream, you're just wrong. There is no deindustrialization of the United States. You're wrong. What a kind of a fucking asshole bullshit take is that? That's insane to say. That is like an insane thing to just be like, I don't know. it just seems so fucking stupid to me.
And that is a trend that's not going away. So we can fetishize industrial jobs all we want. They're not coming back. They're coming back. The robots are going to take over.
Were they here or are they not? Are the industrial jobs with us or are they in the room? What do you fucking? You just said we still produce things. The industrial age never went away. We're still an industrial country, and now he's saying there are no industrial jobs. I fucking hate these people. Listen to that. Hold on, wait. I gotta rewind on this.
We ever have into industrialization in the United States. That is
okay, jump in.
Well, there's no deindustrialization in the United States. That is a myth. We produce more stuff.
See,
than we have in terms of actual value produced. We do it with a lot less people, not because of China, but because of automation.
Okay,
and that is a trend that's not going away. So we can fetishize industrial jobs all we want. Then
that's the thing. When people talk about like job numbers and like, oh, you know, unemployment, oftentimes what is in the subtext of that conversation is the quality of jobs, the amount of hours, like the amount of the pay, all of these things, because you could have a million fucking like people working, you know, these bullshit jobs that barely pay you to manufacture something that's going to sell for a couple cents. You may call that an industrial job. I call that a bullshit job, right? Even if it gets, you know, automated, when we make cars and shit in the Tesla factory, even if that gets automated, that's not an industrial job anymore. You know, it's like, what is he talking about? Like he's just actively avoiding the conversation here. I don't fucking get it.
Not coming back. They're never coming back. The robots are going to take over those jobs, and we better figure out a model of how to create value.
We better figure out a model
in those cubicles, because there are going to be more of them, not fewer of them. Industrialization is again a fantasy of the past. It wasn't that great to begin with, and again, this is part of the problem. But I agree completely that we disrespect skills, intellectual skills, and physical skills.
Does this guy just hate women? Is he just a contrarian? He's like, woman said something. Let me just dogpile it.
We get the snowflakes that we have today because of that. I think the snowflakes are a consequence of something more fundamental. I think we have elevated.
Who is this guy?
System, starting really with kindergarten.
Yaron Brook.
Emotion above reason. That is, we teach kids to emote. We teach kids that the emotions are primary. That thoughts are not objective, that the truth is not objective, that reality is not objective, and indeed reason is not a means of knowing reality, but emotions are. We put them in so...
Hold on, we're Wikipedia really quick. We're gonna Wikipedia snoop this man. Real quick. Oh my god. Yaron Brook, Israeli-American objectivist writer who's currently chairman of the board of the Ayn Rand Institute. Oh my god! They put literal Hitler in front on the panel. Like, we're gonna have a debate with literal Hitler, the Ayn Rand Institute, Israeli American fucking, oh my god. Oh, Ayn Rand Institute, holy shit. Chairman of the board of the Ayn Rand Institute. Oh my god. His parents were socialists? No! What did they do wrong? Oh my god. Oh man. Career. I'm just gonna assume, call it bold, call it like a generalization. I'm gonna assume an Israeli man who is on the chairman of the board of the Ayn Rand Institute is probably going to be pro-Israel. But I could be wrong. I've only watched 1 minute of him. I'm just going to assume. On Zionism, Brook argued that Zionism fused a valid concern, a self-preservation amid a storm of hostility, with a toxic premise, ethnically based collectivism and religion. I don't know that. It's such a nuanced take, but I think it's still like in defense of Zionism at the end of the day, which is like absurd. When you're saying like, Zionism is, racist and toxic and ethnic and religiously, chauvinist, and then you're like, I don't know, self-preservation amid a storm of hostility. It sounds like you're trying to explain away like Nazi ideas, Brooke had claimed that Islamic ideology is not compatible with the moral values of the contemporary Western world. Classic. Yeah, okay, classic bullshit. Brooke is an outspoken proponent of laissez-faire capitalism. In appearances on CNBC and several articles and speeches, he has defended and upheld what he views as the rights of companies and businessmen and the virtues of capitalism. He defended multi-million-dollar CEO pay packages against the attempt by the government to regulate them. In a 2010 interview, Brooke called the efforts of Democrats to raise taxes on multimillionaires totally immoral. Oh my God. He criticized George W. Bush for signing Sarbanes-Oxley Act, which regulates corporate accounting practices. I'm surprised George W. Bush attempted to regulate corporate accounting practices. He has also argued that antitrust laws are unjust and make no sense ethically or economically. Jesus. He's a co-author with Don Wilkins of the books Equal is Unfair, America's Misguided Fight Against Income Inequality. Oh my God, oh my God, oh my God, oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. Oh wait, he has a whole thing on Israel? Oh no, it just that one thing. Just that one thing. All right. Well, politics and economics. We already looked at that. Career. Yeah, Ayn Rand Institute. It doesn't even have anything from before then. Like it. What a fucking guy. Okay, let's listen to this shit.
And have them debate issues that they're not qualified to debate. They know nothing about as 5-year-olds or 10-year-olds or 12-year-olds. But they learn to express emotions above
Hold on.
of something more fundamental, educational system. But I don't think we get the snowflakes that we have today because of that. I think the snowflakes are a consequence of something more fundamental. I think we have elevated in our educational system, starting really with kindergarten, we've elevated emotion above reason. That is, we teach kids to emote.
Oh my God. We teach children how to express their emotions.
Teach kids that the emotions are primary, that thoughts are not objective, that the truth is not objective, that reality is not objective, and indeed.
My favorite thing to do when I'm raising my children, teach them that truth and objectivity do not exist. That is exactly how you're supposed to raise your child. That's actually how everyone does it nowadays. That is the standard right now. Truth and objectivity? Nah, we don't teach those to preschoolers. We're good. We're good.
Reason is not a means of knowing reality, but emotions are. We put them in circles and have them debate issues that they're not qualified to debate. They know nothing about as 5-year-olds or 10-year-olds.
Why we have 5 or 10? Did you have debate class when you were 5 or 10? No. No, maybe when you were fucking 10 you had like I don't even know.
They learn to express emotions above all. And by the time they get to university, they're little emotional bubbles, all they have is emotions, and they've never been taught to use the thing that makes us human, which is our reasoning capacity. They've never been taught that there is such a thing as a truth. All there is opinion. So yes, they get into circumstances and you don't know how to argue with somebody else because they don't have the tools. Those are tools of reason. All they have is emotion. The yelling is an expression. It's a manifestation of everything they've been taught up until.
You know what's funny, too, is he's, like, running his fucking mouth, and what's funny, too, is that Catherine Liu has, like, a very controversial take on, like, the whole snowflake thing. Like, she says that, like, liberalism has monetized, suffering and self-pity and things like that. And, like, I don't necessarily disagree with you. Like, liberalism has monetized everything. But that's, like, her shtick. And this guy's out here saying, like, no, it's in the classrooms. And I'm like, dude, it is not in the fucking classrooms. Like, We don't teach children to be bumbling fucking emotional shitbags. We don't. That's just not what we do. I don't know if you ever went to school, but they don't do that. That's not a thing. We teach kids shit, and we do it very poorly, at least in the United States. Jesus.
Till that point. So again, our educational crisis, is much deeper than academia. It sources academia because we teach the teachers, but it sources academia. But it's a crisis of elevating emotion above reason and rejecting the idea.
Where do you even see that? Like, that's just not a real thing.
I don't see any kindergarten debates, but I'll agree with you.
Thank you.
I'm going to come back to you, Catherine, but I have a quote that I wasn't sure if I was going to use. And I'm going to use it because of some of the things you just said. It comes from Buckminster Fuller, probably is much more of a leftist, from 1970. Because he recognized, you mentioned in there, at least in the States and probably in most of the West, jobs are being created, but fewer people are needed for them. And this has been noticed for a long time.
Because they're bullshit jobs. Because they're bullshit jobs.
Okay,
they're bullshit jobs. There's bullshit jobs everywhere. Oh my god, we have bullshit jobs. Oh. How many fucking... He's probably gonna cite, like, the job listing growth, like, the open positions, like, the ones that no one gets hired for, the ones that have thousands and thousands of applicants constantly and nobody is ever fucking actually getting a job for. Those ones? Is that what you're talking about?
Shortage of jobs in the world today.
The ones that corporate executives use to prove that their company is growing so they can inflate the stock price? Those ones?
Because my next question
is very low.
My next question, which is the last theme about is there an overhaul, but I want to focus on sort of the technological changes and if universities are even up to the task and kind of the stuff we mentioned with ChatGPT and whatever. But Buckminster Fuller, and I want to give this one to you, Catherine, he said this in 1970, and you'll probably hate it, but he said, we should do away with the absolutely specious notion that everybody has to earn a living. It is a fact today that 1 in 10,000 of us can make a technological breakthrough capable of supporting all the rest. The youth of today are absolutely right in recognizing...
Oh my god, look at this Ayn Rand Institute asshole, please! Shaking his head all smugly knowing that he's going to retire.
Sense of earning a living. We keep inventing jobs because of this false idea that everybody has to be employed at some kind of drudgery because according to Malthusian Darwinian theory, he must justify his right to exist. So we have inspectors of inspectors, people making instruments for inspectors to inspect inspectors. And then this is the part, and he said this in 1970, right? The true business of people should be to go back to school and think about whatever it was they were thinking about before somebody came along and told them to earn a living. I want to bring this one to you because you know, in your answer, you're talking about, you're saying there's jobs out there for them. I'm not sure how many of them feel that way, whether you think the statistics are showing them something different or not. And it goes back to my earlier question of what the role of the university really is in a world where, let's say, Fuller maybe had a point.
Okay, so he's very much of the new left and thinks that can be a utopia of just pure leisure time. I think leisure in itself was created as a category because there was work. And the division between work and leisure is something that's completely destroyed because of this thing, because we're working and we're playing games on the same platform, on the same gadget. So that kind of utopianism, I can't completely endorse. But it certainly is true that we have the productive capacity to liberate the majority of workers from drudgery to find meaningful work. And I think meaningful work is what is important here. And our jobs, the cubicle jobs especially, and the managerial and professional jobs that I'm talking about are much more surveilled and managed by a system that wants to extract profit from any enterprise. So private equity enters an industry, de-skills the workers, and heightens the managerial class to create flows and debts that they then extract from the industry and they leave. Like from sporting clubs like Manchester United to student loan debt to private hospitals. We see a degeneration of American industry, if you like, or job production because of this management for finance capital. So I don't believe that Buckminster Fuller could not have predicted this development. We have such great production capacity. Why isn't there more meaningful work? If we can give the drudgery to AI, great. But we're not. we're inventing new forms of drug.
Yeah, I gotta pull up this clip really quick. Hold on, I've got to do it. Oh my gosh. There's just one clip that I think is super funny. It's this one comedian with Theo Vaughn. Oh my god. Oh, where is it? Let's see if I can find it. I might not be able to find it. Oh wait, was he not with Theo Vaughn? He might not have been. That is not it. I'm not going to be able to find it, but yeah, it's this one comedian. I can't remember his name, but he basically just says like, when did it become AI doing the art and humans doing the dishes? And like, I'm just like, exactly, like that is the primary point of it all. And you know what's funny too is like I honestly wonder if AI is going to be more of like a cotton gin invention than anything else, where it's like AI makes productive capacity of certain industries or sorry, like increases the productive capacity of certain industries and makes them way more profitable in some way, shape, or form. And then we just end up getting stuck with like overwhelmingly exploitative work hours because they want to capitalize on it as much as possible, and worsening conditions too, because, I don't know. I wonder. Maybe I'm not perfectly remembering how the cotton gin like made life worse, but yeah.
To dominate people. So there's intellectual conformity within the universities, but there's a degradation of work and its meaning for the general population, from the blue collar to the white collar workers. So my concern is, how do we bring back the dignity of work? Your Honor and I can debate about whether or not there is the industrialization. We can do that. We can pull, statistics out of a hat. But I think what I want to say is, if we don't have industrial jobs anymore, and they were incredibly punishing, how can we find more meaningful work for people who don't go
Exactly.
to college?
To continue watching this video, click the link in the top left.
I actually do want to watch the rest of that. That was actually really interesting. Oh god. Oh god. What have I done? Oh god. What is this website? What am I looking at? This is scary. Failing to provide public humanist education.
Ideological indoctrination.
Maybe the 10 in this room, I don't know. More than half of people now say going to university is not worth it.
No shit.
Graduate in debt in the U.S. with averages of over $71,000, and access to similar information is available online, often for free. So, should we call time on the age of the university and find new, innovative ways to educate people? Should we leave research
Absolutely not.
to the business sector and free market forces? Or are universities vital to our education and culture, and can a radical overhaul return them to their original status, if that's what they should be returned to? So, speaking about this, I'm going to ask you to hold your applause until I introduce all three. Is Yaron Brook, to my right. He's a political scientist and chairman of the Ayn Rand Institute, and he's a best-selling author and host of the Yaron.
It's like power word kill, Jesus.
Eric Kaufman on the end is a professor of politics at the University of Buckingham. He's the author of Taboo and White Shift, Immigration, Populism, and the Future of White Majorities. And Catherine Liu is a professor of film and media studies at the University of California, Irvine. She's the author of Virtue Hoarders, The Case Against the Professional Managerial Class. Let's welcome them with applause. Okay.
What an outstanding round of applause from the crowd of gray-haired people and one redhead.
Time on the age of the university and find new, innovative ways to educate people. The floor is yours.
Well, I mean, I think that the university still serves an important function. It certainly can serve a crucial and important function. But it seems like a lot of things.
Just because he's from the Ayn Rand Institute, I don't think it's his Israeli accent. I think he's just genuinely got a speech impediment, and I'm so glad it gives me something like selfless and cruel. Fuck. I dropped all my magic cards I was gonna play with.
There is
God damn it.
prestige associated with going to university that probably is unjustified in terms of what students are actually learning. So I think there certainly is, there should be a rethinking, and I think we're trying. There are various effects among entrepreneurs to find different disruptive technologies, to find alternatives.
What? It paused? Why did it paused and muted?
Found anything that actually works. We're seeing the beginnings of the establishment of new universities that are trying to take a different perspective in the United States. We've got, one that made a lot of noise in the U.S. was the University of Austin in Texas, which is trying to take a slightly different approach to university with more viewpoint diversity, although I think they're landing up not having very much viewpoint diversity, and I think they're somewhat conventionally right versus the typical university, which is conventionally left. They are just creating a conventionally right university.
What?
So there are attempts. I think we're still very early in this process of attempting to find alternatives. I think the whole thing is distorted, from my perspective, is distorted by the fact that government is very involved, both in America, both at the state and the federal level, in Europe, certainly at the state level, at the country level. Governments are very involved in the funding of universities. We're seeing now a big crisis in funding research, but also the whole idea of tuition, which again is a crisis in the United States. The idea that government provides students with tuition to go. When you offer free service, what do you get? Overconsumption of that service. Anything you offer for free, people consume too much of.
How are you gonna tell me it's a bad thing for universities and education to be overconsumed? Like, this is the fucking problem with these people. What kind of a fucking degenerate says that some people, not all people, should have the right to college education while others should be destined to be fucking bumbling idiots? Like, I don't understand. Like, obviously not everyone who takes a college education is an idiot, but what I'm saying is, like, what do you mean overconsumption of universities? What does that mean, bro?
So the funding of universities need to be rethought. The purpose of universities, I think, needs to be rethought. But I still want to emphasize that I think there's a crucial role of gaining what you call a liberal arts or STEM or whatever, and a specialized formal education. There's enormous value in that, just probably not for everyone, and it probably needs to be more exposed, focused thought.
God, dude.
Offer for free, people consume too much of. So the funding of...
Just look at the way Catherine's looking at him. Just chin down, eyes glaring up, fucking Erica Kirk walking his ass. Oh my god. What a mog. What a mog.
Universities, I think, needs to be rethought. But I still want to emphasize that I think there's a crucial role of gaining what you call a liberal arts or STEM or whatever, and a specialized...
Crucial role?
There's enormous value in that, just probably not for everyone.
Oh my god.
It probably needs to
ignorant
be
ass.
more exposed to what I call market pressures, including the pricing mechanism.
Okay, great. So I think just as a piece to put on the table early, this thing's called crisis.
Hold on, we're gonna look up Catherine Liu on YouTube. I was getting bored of that one, but she's got some really interesting content. She went on David Pakman. Well, hey, any publicity is good publicity, right? Cambridge Union Society, Catherine Liu. Let's check it out. This house believes in the right to offend.
Speech to conclude our floor speeches. We'll now return to our final speaker in favor of the motion this evening. Catherine Liu is Professor of Film and Media Studies at the University of California, Irvine. She is the author of Virtue Hoarders, The Case Against the Professional Managerial Class, and has published widely on critical theory, film and art criticism, psychoanalysis, and left historiography. Her forthcoming book, Traumatized, The New Politics of Suffering, is coming in September of 2026. She is the director and founder of the Palm Springs School for Social Research, an educational and research-focused think tank and platform. Catherine, you have the ears of the house.
Thank you. So I'm going to begin by saying a word that I haven't heard here yet: capitalism. We live in a capitalist society. And freedoms and rights
She said it. She said the word.
Of the bourgeois revolutions that were prosecuted first in England and then in France for the right to offend the monarch. And because I would like to do a genealogy. I'm less legalistic than historical, materialist in the sense. I would like to talk about how offense in the court society, in pre-revolutionary Ancien Regime European societies, what put the courtier, who's the kind of predecessor to the intellectual, the celebrity, the pundit, the secular clerk, if you like, and the professional managerial class credentialed elites, to which you all aspire, I assume. The courtier in the court, if he, mostly he, offended the monarch, was at risk of not just exile and bankruptcy, but death. And this became unbearable to an increasingly educated elite who, through mercantile accumulation, had produced enough surplus value that they had leisure time to educate themselves and not behave like sycophants and minions in the court.
Minions!
And
dude, this guy is just looking up to her like, what the hell? You see him in the back? I should probably turn my cursor back on, but yeah, you can see him back there. He's just like, what?
Cromwell's revolution and the revolution of 1789, as well as the revolution of 1776, but that's a little different. The American Revolution was different. These were prosecuted by a bourgeoisie that chafed under the yoke of restriction.
It is reminding me, and it's important to remember this. A lot of people forget or gloss over this when they're like romanticizing the opposition to the king and everything like that. That fundamentally the winds were changing in a way that was not profitable for the founding fathers. The founding fathers knew that if they stuck with the British Empire, it was not going to be profitable, and they felt the pulse of the nation, similar to how Tucker Carlson and J.D. Vance are feeling the pulse of the nation on Israel and everyone else. They felt the pulse of the nation, and the pulse of the nation was beating very strongly against the British Empire, and so that's why the revolution had a aristocratic backing. You can say whatever you like about it, but the truth is it was about the fact that they saw there was a couple of laws in particular that were passed in Britain that were favorable to the rights of slaves, and for that reason there was like, you could feel it in the air that there was going to be a shift sooner or later against slavery, and the founding fathers absolutely could not have that happen. Not all of which were slave owners. Benjamin Franklin, I believe. Actually, I should probably fact check this before I go saying it on YouTube and shit, but I believe Benjamin Franklin I believe that Benjamin Franklin petitioned for slavery to be abolished at the signing of the Constitution. Yeah, okay, he did. Okay. Yeah, let's see. I'm actually kind of curious. Benjamin Franklin's anti-slavery petitions to Congress. During his life, Franklin had many careers, including a service as a diplomat, printer, writer, inventor, scientist, lawmaker, postmaker, among others. He became a vocal as an abolitionist in 1787, began to serve as president of the Pennsylvania Society for Promoting the Abolition of Slavery. The society was originally formed in April 14th, 1775 in Philadelphia as a society for the relief of free, I can't say that, unlawfully held in bondage. It was reorganized in 1784 and again in 1787, and then incorporated by the state of Pennsylvania in 1989. 1789, Jesus. Not a little bit off there. Da 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 da. It was immediately denounced by... Okay, the petition was introduced to the House on February 12th and to the Senate on February 15th. It was immediately denounced by pro-slavery congressmen and sparked a heated debate in both the House and the Senate. The Senate took no action on the petition, and the House referred it to a select committee for further consideration. The committee reported back on March 5th, 1790, claiming the Constitution restrains Congress from prohibiting the importation or emancipation of slaves until 1808, and then tabled the petition. Just 2 months later, Franklin died. Damn. Yeah, I wish I could read that shit. Oh, look, it says United States. I can read something. Abolition of slavery, the relief of free N-words, unlawfully held in bondage, the no, I can't tell what that fucking is. I'm so bad at reading cursive, dude. It's not even funny. Not even funny. And to think this was written on parchment too, that cost money back then. Crazy. Crazy, crazy, crazy.
Of speech and expression, but also of intellect.
But yeah, my point was that it was an aristocratic revolution, and they just sort of like pulled the proletarian around with them.
Life and the exercise of reason, to which we all have access, and to which every human being is capable. And so this condition produced, as the means of production was changing, a new sphere where the public exercise of reason could be prosecuted. And according to Jürgen Habermas, this space, facilitated by printing press and general higher levels of literacy, was the coffee houses of London.
Oh yeah, drink that water. Stay hydrated.
People argued with each other, oftentimes speculating about the price of goods that they were trading, but also about the latest scientific revolution, the scientific ideas, and the philosophical breakthroughs and the continent and events on the continent. Simultaneous to this, or previous to this space, there was a space of manners. And here, I despair to think of someone so young who believes that the truth can be adjudicated through manners. But the salon societies of the 17th and 18th centuries, governed by aristocratic women, also broke through the rule of the tyrant in order to create etiquette and ways of being that, if you offended, would be punished by exclusion. And these were called the salons and the ruelles of the absolute monarch of Louis XIV. Louis XIV surveilled his court in every possible way. And these women created new forms of agreement with each other, new forms of manners that actually did pioneer new forms of knowledge. But offense was once again punished by exile, humiliation, and shame. So all these forms of offense and giving offense and punishment were mortifications of our human capacity for reason. And I'm going to relate this now to our society today, riven by inequality, as this young woman just mentioned. We live in a world of deeply, deeply destabilized forms of inequality. However, we are all children of the Enlightenment who believe that we live in a world where we are fundamentally equal. Now, if we live in a world where we are equals, then how do we convince each other of the correctness of our positions?
See, it's funny because we live in a world where we believe ourselves to be fundamentally equal in the sense that, right, like, we all have the same dignities and rights and worth, etc. But we don't act that way. like, we say this, but we don't actually act this way. You know what I mean? Like, how am I, like, I'm just thinking of, like, Elon Musk and people like that. Like, when you look at, not fucking Brad Lander, that other guy that we were just looking at, the Israeli Ayn Rand guy, I mean, it's so obvious when you see that guy does not believe in his narrativized version of capitalism, where someone succeeds based off of their own worth and their own accomplishments, right? And not because of just happenstance and material conditions. Um, Obviously, the dominant ideology of our society has always been the Reaganomics and Reagan, Milton Friedman, Ayn Rand, even Clinton adopted it, right? And then you push into, Obama was faux progressive, and then he actually ended up just being another fucking shithead, and then, the list goes on, right? Like, all of this ideology, this neoliberal bullshit. Fuck. Oh my god. Cough so hard I burp. Anyways, it just ends up reaffirming the idea that a billionaire is intrinsically better and worth more than you. And when you have a trillionaire like Elon Musk, who's got $1.5 trillion, it's pretty apparent and pretty obvious that, like, we obviously don't believe that. Like, maybe on a personal level we do, but, like, I don't see that being reflected in any of our institutions, in any of our government, in any of our I mean, the only institution I see it being apparent in is the education system, and even then it's like, if you're getting taught Ayn Rand shit, then you might have a problem. I don't know.
Except through debate, where honest debate produces the risk of offense, because none of us is the monarch. However, the domination of our
The divine right of billionaires. There you go. That's what you call it.
particular social world by the liberal ideology of the professional managerial class makes it extremely dangerous in institutions like this to give offense to that ideology. And I'm going to come back to this question of feelings here. Of course, we can have our feelings, and the breakthrough of proper expression of feelings and their entry into public life has a lot to do with feminism. It has a lot to do with the 60s counterculture, where feelings became instantiated as important parts of reasoned debate. However, when someone's feelings, when the individual's feelings, when the ego, the narcissistic ego's feelings becomes a kind of monarch through which speech can be adjudicated, like, you offend me, so you're a bad person and you need to shut up, that undermines the possibility of solidarity, that undermines the possibility of real community building that we need to be able to be capable of in order to join the class struggle against the billionaire class.
I completely agree with her, but I do think that this is her most controversial, like, statement that I've heard, at least. And this is the big one for her. This is what she gets a lot of traction on, is being a progressive person who's against the cancel culture. And I feel like there's a lot of those people nowadays, but she's taken it. She's thought it out well, and I don't think there's a lot of intellectuals out there, or pseudo intellectuals. I don't really know her credentials, to be honest. I think she has pretty decent credentials, but I don't think there's a lot of intellectuals out there that are challenging the notions of cancel culture with any substance, so much as there are pseudo intellectuals on the right who are using it as a vector to sort of channel right-wing rage into, whatever the fuck. I gotta take these contact lenses out, man. It's killing me. But yeah, I think that she's I think that she's on a hot one here. I think she's on a sick one. Unfortunately, she was maybe a little late to the party because it's obvious that cancel culture doesn't mean shit anymore. I think the right does more canceling than the left at this point. I mean, it's kind of obvious when you see, like the left had like a sort of a lateral framework for cancel culture where anyone could cancel anyone and it might just catch on enough. The right has a power structure based cancel culture where it's like, Marjorie Taylor Greene didn't make Trump happy and therefore she got canceled and now she's completely out of the picture. I mean, it's pretty obvious that there's no there's no real movement behind the cancel culture on the left because there's no cultural power, or not cultural, there's no institutional power held by Democrats or anything like that. And I think that when the left cancels something, it's held by the wide population's views. When the right cancels something, they're canceling it from their own like power structure and their own, or when the right cancels something, it's a mobilization of a power structure, right? It's not the left's version, which is like boycotting Israel by not buying McDonald's, right? It's like it's just not the same. It's not unilateral. The age of cancel culture is over with. It's essentially now just PR battles. It's not cancel culture isn't a thing. It's just PR battles now.
So most of us as professional managerial elites, however, are content to be the servants of capital. We are content to please
I gotta
the
go to the bathroom.
class. However, the dissenters, the great dissenters on the left, they offended both the notion of manners and the notion of any kind of adulation of wealth and the hyperaccumulation of wealth. So this is why I believe, from a left point of view, that we need to have, not necessarily in the language of rights, let's say in the language of freedom, to offend the powerful. Now, a young man up there said we need to speak truth to power. In fact, in such an environment as this, that is a cliche. Where is power? And how do we speak to it? We need to find the bonds of solidarity that allow us to speak for each other and with each other, and not through this condescending notion of protection of the marginalized, but empowerment of the oppressed. That's I would say.
Yeah, I think she said it really well there, and I think that kind of ties into one of my other favorite talking heads right now, which is Chris Hedges. I've been a huge Chris Hedges fan for the longest time. He has this one thing about he has this one talk he gave on Chris Hedges where people in power I think it's we need to keep people in power scared. Yeah, here we go. This guy went on the Hassan show too, which is kind of fun. He's not
are gun-toting Christian right militia members who function
7 years ago.
Fascist groups always function, diverting a legitimate rage, and it is legitimate, against the vulnerable, undocumented workers, Muslims, homosexuals, feminists, intellectuals, liberals. And they're strong and powerful, and we at this moment, because our movements were destroyed in the name of anti-communism, are starting almost from zero. And yet, as Howard Zinn understood, every opening in American democracy came from radical movements. The Liberty Party that fought slavery, the suffragists, the labor movement, the civil rights movement. The mythology we use to describe the New Deal is not history. Because those radical movements, including the Communist Party,
went to Roosevelt and said, either you put people back to work, you feed the destitute and the elderly, or you get revolution. And Roosevelt, an oligarch himself, went to the other elites and said, you better give up some of your money now or you may lose all of your money. And as Roosevelt said, he said his greatest achievement was that he saved capitalism. But it's time for capitalism to go.
You know, it's kind of funny because he's a self-described radical Keynesianist, you know, or Keynesian. He's not an anti-capitalist in the true sense of the word. I think he's being sort of I don't know, he's just kind of throwing that word out there. Time for capitalism to go, at least.
And it's only going to go if we make it go. And that means that we have got to build movements that are unrepentingly antagonistic to every aspect of corporate power. And that has as its goal, whether it's our for-profit healthcare system, or the destruction of education, or the arms industry, or the looting and pillaging by Wall Street, every action must be directed to dismantling the structures that oppress us. And that will come only by building movements that grasp that it is not our job to take power. Power is the problem. Karl Polanyi in The Open Society and its enemies says the question is not how do you get good people to rule. That's the wrong question. Polanyi said most people attracted to power are at best mediocre or venal. The question is, how do you make the powerful frightened of you?
There it is. See, that's sort of the what I was saying, right? Is when Catherine Liu's talking about weaponizing, like using how elites adopted cancel culture as a way to shield themselves from social criticism, right? And they sort of adopted the pride flag logos and all of this sort of thing. It was a way to shield themselves from criticism and a way to protect themselves from what was essentially like a rising populist sentiment that we demand accountability, right? And when we see that on the right, and I think that accountability has changed much less because we know that it's not effective. I think we've canceled so many people. Like you can't believe in cancel culture and see a rapist in the White House. You know, it's not, those things don't add up. You can't be like, cancel culture is an effective means for getting change across, right? When all it ever did was put a celebrity or two in jail, you know, or not even in jail, but like it took them out of the picture per se. You know, they're just not popular anymore. You know, I think it's pretty straightforward when you think of it that way. It's like you have a rapist in the White House, and yet yet you're gonna try and what? You're gonna try and Twitter post someone to death? Like, it's not gonna happen. And so I think that taking that accountability and transferring it into like local and state politics has been like what we're seeing with the midterms right now today. The Zoran Mamdaniaks out there going crazy, Brad Lander and such, etc. I think that we've seen that sort of materialize and that energy shift towards something else. And I also think that when you see cancel culture from the right, just as I said, it's a mobilization of a power structure. It's not a lateral force moving upwards, you know. So you know, it's kind of immature to say that we should, you know, that politicians. I don't know. I guess it's never an unpopular opinion to say politicians shouldn't be scared of the people. I think most people would agree with that. I think there's a degree of like anxiety that should be had. And Chris Hedges' favorite story to back this up. Well, actually, let's see if he tells it.
including that ridiculous movie about Lincoln.
What did I skip to?
Make a movie about emancipation without Frederick Douglass. Only in Hollywood. There's a scene in Kissinger's memoirs, do not buy the book.
Oh, here it is. I think this is it.
So it's 1971, and Nixon, remember our last liberal president? Yes, he was. Not because he had a conscience or he was liberal, but because he was frightened of movements. OSHA, Mine and Safety Act, Clean Water Act, all came from Nixon. And he's standing at a window at the White House, and he's taken empty city buses and put them end to end around the White House, and he's looking out the window, and he says, Henry, they're going to break through the barricades and get us. And that's where people in power have to be.
See that?
That's just where they have to be.
That's exactly it. And that's also how you know Mamdani and other people like that. They're not going to fucking switch up. Because you see people like Fetterman, right? You see Fetterman. He switched up and nobody fucking likes that guy. He has no organic support anymore. He's an AIPAC shill. They do not want to be without that organic support. Because that organic support is what gives them a real power structure, not some financial shit that's just resting on the feeble legs of like their fucking propaganda machine, right? The propaganda machine is outdated. That's really what it is. You can't run a propaganda machine in this a day and age that isn't going to be outcompeted by the internet. You know, you have to unilaterally control the airwaves, which they're trying to do. You've seen the monopolization of all of the media companies, but they're trying to reinforce that power structure as much as they can, but it's futile. You know, you cannot possibly imagine or possibly expect people who live their life on the internet to go to your TV show for your propaganda. It's not going to happen. It's not going to happen. People live through like ground floor influencers, right? And the Republicans have been doing it right. The Republicans know how to do it, but the liberals, they don't really fucking know. Right? And in order to entrap both sides, you need to do it from both sides. If you want to reinforce this fucking pyramid you've got going that keeps the neoliberal hegemony at the top, you've got to be able to make a pyramid. And that requires two sides and a floor. And the floor is spilling out to the left, or sorry, spilling out to the left, right? Right, this is my left? Yeah. No, wait, that's my left. Anyways, you get the idea. You're not going to be able to like I think of Charlie Kirk or the Ben Shapiroites and the whoever else was popular at the time. They're kind of floundering now, but Charlie Kirk was a great example. He did it really well. He took corporate and oil lobbying opinions and, you know, pro-Israel propaganda for the longest time. He started straying on that later in life, but he took it all and he moved it down to the bottom floor of the pyramid, to the proletariat, and he shoveled it down and he boxed them all in. He cupped the thing. He built that right side of the pyramid right there. Democrats, for the longest time, prior to the internet, prior to, you know, the small shift in power that takes away from the media campaign and the media companies, they had a lock on it. When the media companies there was a lock on it. But now the Democrats don't know how to box in this left-wing movement. They don't know how to push it together. So Trump's out here trying to fill in the gap with his, you know, NSPM 7 regulations and things like that, trying to brutalize it back into place. But the reality is you've got that shit spilling out and it's starting to spill up. That's the good thing, is that it's starting to spill up. And that's why you see Mamdani in them, is because they're reacting to what they see. They see that populism is the new status quo. And it's going to be really hard for the Trump administration to hold on to that. It's sort of a dying grip that they have, and they're reinforcing their old machines. They're, you know, monopolizing all the media companies, moving them under Trump control, you know, with like Larry Ellison buying whatever the fuck, you know, all of these billionaires buying into, yeah. MSNBC was owned by Bill Gates for the longest time. You know, the M in Microsoft stands, or the M in MSNBC, oh my God, MSNBC stands for Microsoft. It does. And so when you think about it, it's like they're I don't know. Maybe I'm narrativizing the hell out of it. I love to narrativize politics. I think it makes it so much more digestible. But I think that it's important to remember that when you see them making sort of futile, shitty attempts at the internet and trying to like grasp the, like the Pokemon go to the polls shit, right? It's so funny because it's like when they try and garner public sentiment, or not garner it, but like when they try to trap public sentiment on their side and within the boundaries of what is acceptable for capitalist conversations, liberal democracy conversations, right? They end up getting that pushed to the left because they can't contain it, and it gets pushed to the right too. But that's not a problem, and that's why we have Trump. But Trump only pushed it further to the left, right? I mean, he's greatly unpopular. He activated the left wing, which is the reaction that they were not hoping for, right? It's all just very, very. It is the death spiral of an empire. That's what it is. It's the death spiral of an empire. They're. I mean, it's like, the dam has broken to some extent, and they're trying to fix the leak. It's just, you can't fix the leak. You can't, the dam broke on the left side, and they're reinforcing the right side. It's just not, it's not going to work that way. And I think JD Vance is, he's interesting because he might slow the flow, what he's doing right now. He's, positioning against Israel rhetorically, and I think it's interesting, right? Because like I don't think that that's going to have the effect they want. I think it's going to validate populism, and it's going to I don't think that anyone's going to see JD Vance as being anything less than a politician, especially once he gets into office. It's going to feel like stability in the way that Biden felt like stability, which is that it's bullshit and it doesn't mean much, but it's stability. And I think that populism isn't going away until lives materially change. That populist sort of demand for change that put Trump into office. Those like valid demands, as Chris just says, that anger that people feel. Of course, they're fucking idiots, so they channel it into fascism. But here we are.
And it's our job to put them there. And if you look back at American history, every leap toward justice and equality was made by movements that frightened the powerful. Julian Benda, the treason of the intellectuals. We have a choice in life.
Okay, I love this clip. I love it so much. So actually, first, let me frame it with another clip first. Let's go. Tucker Carlson leaves Republican Party.
A lot of us that.
And then let's also get the JD Vance clip really quick. JD Vance threatens Israel. All right, so let's take it back to the very beginning. Right? Let's take it back to the very beginning. We're gonna do a chronological timeline of Tucker Carlson being a perfect indicator of where the wind blows for the right. He always has been, and he always will be. Okay, he is way smarter than the rest of them. Let's check it out.
Thanks, Tucker.
Okay. I don't know where to find this clip on its own, so I go to this video every time I want to see it.
Boss convinces the workers to, and would say,
one thing you learn when you grow up in a castle and look out across the moat every day at the hungry peasants out in the village, is you don't want to stoke envy among the proletariat.
All right, one more time. Let's hear it for the boys in the back, or the people in the back.
the wrong direction. Or as Tucker Carlson would say,
one thing you learn when you grow up in a castle and look out across the moat every day at the hungry peasants out in the village is you don't want to stoke envy among the proletariat.
Isn't that lovely? Isn't that just lovely that Tucker Carlson is a woke king and uses terms like proletariat? Okay. So now, now we're gonna go to, actually, let's pull up at this one. Tucker Carlson, Ted Cruz interview. He has this Ted Cruz interview that was just so
that's not good.
insightful.
Growing up in Sunday school, I was taught from the Bible, those who bless Israel will be blessed, and those who curse Israel will be cursed. And from my perspective, I want to be on the blessing side of things.
Of those who bless the government of Israel?
Those who bless Israel is what it says. It doesn't say the government of, it says the nation of Israel. So that's in the Bible. As a Christian, I believe that.
Where is that?
I can find it to you. I don't have the scripture off the tip of my... You pull out the phone and use the Google.
It's in Genesis. So you're quoting a...
In Genesis, he
Bible
knows.
Phrase. You don't have context for it and you don't know where in the Bible it is, but that's like your theology? I'm confused. What does that even mean?
Tucker.
I'm a Christian. I want to know what you're talking about.
Okay. Where does my support for Israel come from? Number one, because biblically we're commanded to support Israel. But number two...
Hold on.
I'm not holding on.
Hold on. You're a senator, and now you're throwing out theology, and I am a Christian, and I am allowed to weigh in on this. We are commanded as Christians to support the government of Israel?
We are commanded to support Israel. And we're
What does that mean, Israel?
We're told those who bless Israel will be blessed.
But what... Hold on. Define Israel. This is important. Are you kidding?
So obviously a winds change from when Tucker Carlson was Israel's dog on Fox News, right? Like obvious wind change there. He went like that. He felt the wind and he's like, I better jump ship. Well, I mean, he was, you know, booted off the air for being too inflammatory, but you know, cost Fox News a lot of money with a lawsuit, but he jumped ship from towing the mainstream line once he was given the journalistic freedom to become a grifter again, or to grift in a different direction again. So obviously he goes that direction. Love it. Great. Now we have this.
It appears Israel sealed the fate of Tucker Carlson as well. For months, Republicans have been painting him as anti-Semitic.
And I will say on the right, I have seen more anti-Semitism in the last 18 months on the right. It is being spread by loud voices, the most consequential of whom
is Tucker Carlson.
I believe Tucker Carlson is the single most dangerous demagogue in this country.
I just find that so funny. It's so funny to me. It's so... You went on his show. You platformed. Like, you just went on his show.
Says he is done with the Republican Party. He says it puts the interest of Israel above those of its own citizens.
I would not support the Republican Party. There's no chance I would support the Republican Party. I'm not going to support the Democratic Party. I don't know what I'm going to do. But at this point, you know, how could I or any American voter support a political party that's not loyal to the United States?
Okay, so we have reached Tucker Carlson fully abandoning the Republican Party, disowning it, right? Which is, if you would have told me he would have done that like a few years back, I would have never believed you. You know, in 2016, I would have been like, what? No, he's obviously a dog for the Republicans. He's just a grifter. He's a grifter at heart. I was naive. What can I say?
Go ahead. Thank you, sir. Jordan.
So now we get into this, which is J.D. Vance fully towing the line of the Republican Party. Or not towing the line, fully dipping his toe into the anti-Israel sentiment on the right side of the spectrum. How do I do toe dipping? He's dipping his toe, you know? Anyways, toe dipped. Consider your toe dipped. But yeah, no, he sees the winds change as well. Maybe he had a phone call with Tucker Carlson where he's just venting or something, and Tucker made it pretty clear to him that if he wants to win 2028, he's going to have to make a change. So he's establishing his grounds for calling himself for pretending like he has integrity. He's got to get it a little ahead of time in order to fully flush this out, which is something the Democrats are just incapable of. They're just incapable of this kind of forethought.
I want to talk back to the Lebanon component of the deal. There's a report in Axios that Netanyahu's fuming over this. Israel doesn't feel bound to the MOU as it relates to Lebanon. If, as you mentioned, your frustration with Israel striking in Beirut, hitting apartment buildings, if that continues, could it torpedo the deal? And what would the U.S.'s response be to a broader war in Lebanon involving Israel and Hezbollah?
Yeah, well, I don't want to get into hypotheticals that could torpedo the deal, because I think the president's expectation is that all of our friends, the Israelis, the Arabs in the region, we're going to work together and actually see this deal to completion. Now, I saw the Axios report, that Netanyahu is fuming. That's not reflective of the conversations that I've had with him, but maybe he's saying something to somebody else that he's not saying to me. What I will say, and this does bother me, is that you have seen people...
When Trump is fully denying these accusations, yet it is completely, he's like, well, he's not fully denying it. I mean, he did say the other day that he has to keep Netanyahu sane. But, like, it's pretty obvious that Trump doesn't want people shit-talking Netanyahu, and he tries to steer the conversation away from this sort of, conversation. When you see JD Vance's language here, where he says maybe someone else is seeing what I don't see, he's positioning himself. He's a flower just budding into being performatively anti-Israel. He's not ever actually going to be anti-Israel. He's still going to be funding them by 2028. It doesn't matter. He's still going to be supporting them. It's all the same. It doesn't matter. It's performative. But he is laying the groundwork for the, integrity that when in 2028 he's going to point back at these moments and say he had integrity when he was standing up to Netanyahu's reign over the ceasefire, etc.
Within Bibi's cabinet, who have come out and attacked the deal, and in some ways very personally attacked the President of the United States. And I guess my message to them would be twofold. Number
Here
one,
it is. This is important.
Donald J. Trump is the only head of state in the entire world who is sympathetic to the nation of Israel at this moment in time. And he happens to be the head of state of the world's superpower. If I was in the cabinet of the Israeli government, I might not be attacking the only powerful ally that I have anywhere left in the entire world. And the second message I would give to some of those cabinet members, Bibi, to his credit, has not gone down this path, but to some of these cabinet members in Israel who are attacking the President of the United States, the other thing that I would say is that over the last 3 months, 2/3 of the defensive weapons that have protected your homeland have been built by American hands and paid for by American tax dollars. The problem for Israel is not Donald J. Trump. And anybody in Israel who thinks their biggest problem is the President of the United States needs to wake up and smell the reality of the...
Yeah, so I think you get the idea there, right? Vance is trying to box in that right side of the circle, or of the triangle. Holy shit. He's trying to box in the right side because the left side is just, it's fading away. The left, the Democrats are not boxing it in. There is fading support for this side of the triangle. This one, sort of supported. The only thing that Democrats have going is that they are the opposition to the unpopular Trump. And other than that, they got jack squat. They got diddly. So I don't know what you'd call it. You might call it a collapse of an empire. You might call it floundering, the deep state floundering, right? Like the structure of the U.S., their little ecosystem of power they have going between the voters and the, Anyways, it's hard to say. But, yeah, I think it's pretty interesting. I'm kind of curious about this one. His new act is an old bit. Yeah. Anyways, I think that's all I got for tonight.